Hi everyone, welcome to Write Our Way, which will be hosted by fictional writer Patrick Starks. If you have not read the description below, these podcast discussions will be surrounded around writing short stories and novels, discussions of storytelling through film, using comparisons from the 80s and the current movies we see today, as well as discussions about how these movies impact our lives, or if not, why. If you are a writer, a reader, or neither of the two, who is looking for some inspiration, a little motivation, something that will get you excited about writing, something that will help you develop and feel confident in your own style, then you have come to the right place. My friends, welcome to Write Our Way.
Hello everyone, welcome to Write Our Way. I'm your host Patrick Starks, and today we're going to talk about how to make our characters a little bit more meaningful. Now, like I've talked about in previous podcasts, this is rather simple, but yet difficult at the same time. You see, to make a character meaningful, we will need to make the character in relation to the everyday people we see every day. But as all of you might know, this might change depending on what we're talking about here. If we're talking about the protagonist or the antagonist, this could mean that your character from life is going to be actually a little bit more extreme than what they would typically be every day you see them. Just to clarify when I'm talking about making these characters meaningful, I'm not saying take somebody and mirror them completely who you know in real life. That's not what we want to do. That's not cool. What I'm saying is sometimes as writers we'll take multiple people and fuse them into one character. Therefore, this is what makes them pretty meaningful when we introduce them to the world. Right off the bat, I don't like drama at all in life. Like, I just always try to sway away from it. I'm all about positivity. However, when it comes to these characters, we do need to dive more into what is the drama of their life. And sometimes we can pull drama from other people's lives into these characters and twist them a little bit. And by doing this is making them so meaningful because in reality, people want to see what's in relation to them. They want to see the drama of the character and if it's in relation to their life, and they want to see how they overcome it. And in some form or fashion, we all kind of like live vicariously through those characters. You see it in sports all the time. I mean, it's not a secret. It's just something that I'm really pointing out for the obvious here, if you didn't know already. Now, the trend that I've noticed when these dramas are introduced to characters, most writers will usually aim for the quite obvious that we all deal with in life, and that's usually family drama or just relationships in general, as far as who we're dating or who we're romantically involved with. I mean, not to be funny, you never hear about a character in a movie or a book where they're going completely off of that character, having a real crappy day at work and how they're overcoming their boss and stuff like that. People, although it is part of our everyday lives, it's not something that really excites them or pushes them to really want to go read the story or watch the movie. But don't completely take my word for it. You don't actually have to completely go off of family or the romantic dramas. There's so many other dramas in life that we can go off of. So definitely I encourage you to explore other dramas, other options. But I think the trick to this, ladies and gentlemen, is really trying to find the authenticity of these dramas. How do we make our dramas stand out more than the next writer without sounding like the typical romantic novel or drama story? How do we do that? Usually when I'm thinking about this authenticity, I'm usually going far left field, everyone. When I mean far left field, I'm going completely bananas with it. Take, for example, if, somebody in a novel, like a romantic novel, is cheating on the other spouse or whatnot. We've heard that 1,000 times. But what if it's not another guy or not another girl? What if it's an animal? What if it's the girl's cheating on her boyfriend with the horse that she found on a farm at an October fest at a pumpkin patch, and she's in a farmland and she found this horse that she really connected to, and she's found love more for the horse than she has her husband. It's authentic, it's different, it's not the typical thing you would hear in a story. And what this does is that really pulls your readers in because they haven't heard that before. You can make it super bizarre where the husband, follows the wife to wherever she's going. He already has the suspicions, right? He follows her to the farm and then, has a stakeout, and then he sneaks up to the barn and he finds her laying in the hay with the horse, naked. So don't let anybody tell you guys that authenticity cannot be found. I don't know how many times I've been told the saying, well, if whatever you thought of, somebody else has already thought. That's such a load of crap, guys. Do not believe that. That's for the suckers. The real ones out here that are really writing and really making things happen, they're writing some incredible stuff, and they're usually the ones that get attention. If all the famous writers out there thought that somebody already wrote what they wrote, we wouldn't even have heard the amazing stories that we hear today. So don't be fooled by the naysayers on that at all. And just to clarify, everyone, you don't want to go too left field. You want to go left field enough where it keeps the reader hooked in and it's giving them some authenticity, but you don't want to scare them away, right? You don't want to make them feel like you're a complete creep or a weirdo. You want to do it in a way where it makes sense and it's something that's actually possible. It's like it could happen. And, with the woman cheating on her husband with the horse, it definitely could happen. There's people that out there that love their animals way more than their family or their spouses. So it would not be a surprise. Now, of course, this isn't all in relation to somebody's actual life, but the cheating aspect definitely is. So it's just kind of we're making a comedy out of it now, like a dark humor out of it, which is the whole point, because when we're thinking about writing these stories, everyone, we got to think this is entertainment. It's not an essay from school. It's not a, AP format type of thing. This is entertainment. And as a writer, you are here to entertain people, and it can be in ways of making them laugh, making them reminisce on their lives and giving them hope for something better. It could be a lot of things that can go in with this entertainment, but the ultimate goal here is to get an emotion out of our readers, like I've talked about before in other podcast episodes. So it's something that you definitely don't want to forget about. You don't want to forget about not just the meaning. It's not about just making the characters meaningful, but it's also about making the story in general meaningful. What's the meaning behind the story? What are you trying to get the reader to see? What's the moral behind it, right? There's got to be something. It can't just be a blank slate. It can't be something blank at the end of the story where it's like, okay, that was just it. I guess there's nothing that I got out of that. I didn't get a laugh out of that. I didn't get anything, or I can't really pass this on to anybody and say, hey, watch this because this is what happened and I felt like I got this reaction out of it. It's got to be something. So just keep that in mind when you're creating these meaningful characters. So I've kind of taught you how to make a scenario authentic. I think that wasn't really a character authenticity. That was more of a scenario authenticity, like what's authentic about the plot in general. But let's dive a little deeper, like how will we make a villain authentic? Now, again, the typical scenario or typical theme for a villain would be that they, murdered somebody or stole something or whatnot. But we're going to, again, take the far left approach and go a little random with this, but again, keep it close to home where we're not scaring the audience away. So let's take the humor back a little bit. Let's go a little darker. Let's say that the villain has a kid that worked for a Twinkie company. The kid ends up dying on the site because of machine malfunction. The father of the child then goes completely rogue and basically starts taking out every employee or manager at that site. But he's not just killing them the typical way. He's killing them with Twinkies. He's taking them out by giving them an over excessive amount of Twinkies to the point their bellies burst. Random, but possible, right? And we can go even further where the suspense could be that his wife has always had suspicions of where he's been going at night. She could be thinking that he's cheating on him, but that's not necessarily the case, because she's seeing on the news that somebody called the Twinkie Man, or whatnot, we can name him whatever, is taking out the same employees that her son worked with or her kid worked with at that same Twinkie site. But see, the catch is, every time her husband comes home, he smells like Twinkies. And one night, she goes in his closet while he's asleep, and she pulls out an empty wrapper, the empty Twinkie wrapper out of his jacket. See what I'm doing there, guys? It's something that is authentic. It's not something that people would typically hear every day. We want to find our voice as writers. We want to be ourselves. We want to be comfortable with ourselves and be authentic in our own way. We don't want to sound like everyone else. We want to sound like ourselves. And so sometimes that takes diving into ourselves deeply and finding that humor and finding that strangeness about us. You got to kind of be a little weird. Now, don't get me wrong again, guys. I'm not talking about going out being a weirdo with your stories. I mean, there's a time and place. There's time and plot for that type of scenario or way of writing. I do believe there are other writers who don't write like in that way. They don't write that random, but they still find authenticity in their characters, and they still find a way to make their characters meaningful. Again, it really comes back home to just us as human beings and how we deeply feel internally. And sometimes, I'm going to say, like most authors and writers have said, sometimes that takes going out and seeing the world and talking with people and hearing their stories. A lot of people have a lot of stories to tell, and you'd be amazed on those stories that you can turn to gold. Not to say that you're stealing their stories, it's just, I think people generally have interesting, authentic lives already. So you don't have to dive too deeply into your own mind to create that if you don't want. I mean, it's possible. You can definitely pull it out of your own mind, but it's sometimes not necessary, especially if you're having writer's block. You can just, dive into a crowd, talk to people, get to know them, go to a library, go to a Starbucks or whatnot, and just chat it up. Find out things about people, not necessarily being nosy, but just small talk, and find something interesting that you want to portray about them in your stories. But just to wrap this up, everyone, again, this is what writing is all about. It's about making some meaningful art, making good art. I think we were talking about that in the last episode, making good/great art. And so when you're making these characters, and when you're making not just the characters, when you're making your plot in general, just think about being yourself and being authentic in your own way. How would you want to see that character, or even more, if you were that character, how would you react? What would be the things you would do with such power, But again, guys, always a pleasure talking with you all. Stay tuned for the next episode. Love you all, and don't forget, become a child again. Imagine, my friends. See you soon.
Hope you all enjoyed and had something to take away from today's discussion. To find out more about our lovely host, Patrick Starks, and even some of his writing works, go to www.paycark.com. That's www.paycark.com. Stay tuned for the next episode of Write Our Way, and have yourself a fantastic day.